All right, guys, so we're on to 2.4. So this is just equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. So like stuff on the coordinate plane kind of thing. For this, I would say it's a little bit more challenging. So if you're having questions or anything, please ask or send an email or something. So for this first part, basically parallel lines, they have the same slope. So slope is just rise over run. All right, so it's a change over time kind of thing. And then for perpendicular lines, I'm going to take this out. I know it says negative reciprocal, but they use negative reciprocal, and I left it there for just to talk about it. Like you might call it a negative reciprocal, but what I call it to make sure we don't get confused is I call it opposite. Okay, because negative, I think it's always going to be a negative number. Opposite just means it's going to change the sign. Okay, so it's gonna, if it's positive, it changes to a negative. It's negative, changes to a positive. Reciprocal, all right, I call it refliprical, okay? That's what I call it. So flip, because basically you just flip the fraction. So if we have a fraction of 2/3, to find the reciprocal, we would just flip it to 3/2. Now, if we want to find the opposite reciprocal, let's say this 2/3 is positive, we change this we change this to a -3/2, okay? So that's an opposite reciprocal. So it changes the sign, flips the fraction. Before we look at some examples of that, I want to show you guys, do you see right here and right here? That's how we write something, okay? So that's how we write lines are parallel. So if we have something like A is parallel to B, we put those two lines, all right? Perpendicular, if we want to say A is perpendicular to B, we just write that upside down T, okay? So that's how we write it, all right, using symbols. These opposite reciprocals down here, we have something like 3/4 and -4/3. For the second one, we have this 2. It's a little bit funky because we get -1/2. So that's where anytime we have a whole number like 2, all we have to do is put it over 1 to make it a fraction, and then we would flip it to 1/2, and that is a positive 2, so we change it to a -1/2. -7/8 and 8/7. We have, again, a whole number 1 and -1. And then we have this one right here, 0 and undefined. So hopefully you guys remember from Algebra 1 that if we have a horizontal line, okay, we have a slope. And I'm just going to use m because normally we use m as a variable for slope. So m is 0. If we have a vertical line, the slope, the m, that's when we call it undefined. If you notice this, we have a vertical and a horizontal line, okay? They're going to intersect. They are going to be perpendicular, okay? All right? They're going to be perpendicular because the other thing is perpendicular lines form right angles. So if we have a horizontal line and a vertical line, all right, they're going to form a right angle, all right? We're going to know that. So that's where, if we're looking at this, it's a little bit tricky because a lot of times for having a slope of 0, it's going to be something where you have like 0/5. All right, and if we do 0/5, that's just going to give us 0, right? But if we had undefined, we might get something like 5/0. All right, and 5/0 is something, if you plug it in your calculator, you're going to get a message that says error because we can't do it. All right, you can't do it. Basically, that's saying you have $0 and you have to pay 5 people back. Like you don't have any money and you're trying to pay people back, it's not going to work. All right. So this is where, and if you look, we do have a reciprocal, but the other thing is it's not opposite because 0 can never be positive or negative. All right. I think about this as I have $0. I don't owe anybody money. I don't have no debts, but I also don't have any money. So it can't be positive or negative. So just be aware of that. Now, if we move on to the next part, we're going to use slope to define if these lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So again, hopefully you guys remember from Algebra 1 the slope formula. Okay, so the slope formula is just, it is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So all we're going to do is we're going to try and find the slope of AB, and we're going to try and find the slope of CD, and then we're going to put them in these boxes and compare them, see if they're parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So if we do this first one, we're going to do 6 minus 3 over 2 minus, and I'm going to put that -2 in parentheses. Now when I do that, 6 minus 3 is going to give me 3. 2 minus a -2, that's going to be addition, because if you subtract a debt, you actually get money. So it's going to be 3/4. So the slope of AB is going to be 3 over 4. Now, if I go and do the next one, CD, okay? This one is going to be y2 minus y1, so it's going to be 3 minus, and here I can label the points, x1, y1, x2, y2, okay? So 3 minus 0 over 3 minus negative 1, put it in parentheses. Again, if you subtract the debt, you add, okay? So 3 minus 0 is just going to be 3. And then 3 plus 1 is going to give us 3/4. So this is where we're looking here, and we got slope of AB is 3/4, slope of CD is 3/4. These numbers are the same. They have the same slope, so they are going to be parallel. Now, if we move on to the next one, number 2, if we look at AB, okay, we're going to do 4 minus 2 over 5 minus 0. When we do this, 4 minus 2 gives us 2, 5 minus 0 gives us 5, so we're left with 2/5. If we do CD, we're going to be left with, let's do 3 minus 8 and 3 minus 1. When we do this, we're going to get 3 minus 8, it's going to give us -5. 3 minus 1 is going to give us 2. So I'm going to put those in the boxes and compare. So we have 2/5, oops. Let me erase that, getting ahead of myself there. So it's going to be 2 over 5, and then we're going to have a -5 over 2. So when we look at these numbers, all right, they are flipped. We see the 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom, 5 on the top over here, 5 on the bottom there, so they're flipped. We also have opposite signs, positive and negative, so these are going to be perpendicular, okay? Perpendicular. So moving on, guys, the next thing is going to be finding the slope of the line. So this is where I just want to review with you guys. Anytime we see a vertical line like we do here, number 4, that is going to be an undefined slope, all right? Now, if we move on to the second one, slope, we define, hopefully you remember this from Algebra 1, is rise over run, okay? Rise over run. So if we look, and you always run to the right, okay? So if we're looking, because we're going to read from left to right, okay, so we're going to start with this point, and then we're going to go down to this point right here. So, and sometimes I write this as, and this is why I put this one up, as rise or fall over run, okay? So always do the rise or fall part first. So if you look here, we are going to fall to this point down below, and we're going to fall 1, 2, 3, 4, so that's going to be -4, and then we're going to run 1 to the right, so that's 1. So that's going to be a -4 over 1, or just -4. Now, number 6, if you look at number 6 here, that is a horizontal line. The slope of that one, so I'm just going to put M as our slope, is going to be 0. Okay, any horizontal line, the slope is just 0, because what we're saying is we didn't rise or fall at all. All right? So just be aware of that. The next thing, slope-intercept form. Again, hopefully a review of Algebra 1. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, okay? What's m? I've used this a couple times. It is going to be the slope. B is going to be our y-intercept, okay? Y-intercept. Y-intercept, all that means is, let's say we have our xy axis here, and then we have this blue line coming in right there. The y-intercept is the point where it hits the y-axis. It intercepts the y-axis. So let's say it intercepts it at the y-coordinate is 1, and our y-intercept for that would be 1. Our b would be 1, okay? Alrighty, guys. So moving on, this is going to be, let's close that out. Now we're on to like the meat of it. This is the part that people seem to struggle with. All right, so make sure you're paying attention here. So for this, it says write an equation parallel to y equals 2x plus 4 that passes through the point -4, -1. Okay, so basically we have this line here. It's going to be up 4. It has a slope of 2 up 1 over 2. So we have this line here that's right there. And then we have to write something that's going to be parallel. So it's going to have the same slope. We know that the line's never going to intersect, but it goes to the point -4, -1. So somewhere over here, all right, we have to find the equation of that line that is going to go parallel to it, all right? So that blue line, that's basically just to kind of get a little sketch in our head. That's what we're doing. We have one line, and then we're saying, hey, there's another line that passes through this point. Where's it at? Okay, what's the equation of that? So to do this, what we have to do is, first of all, we got to figure out what the slope is. Okay, that's step number 1. Okay, so I'm going to break it down into steps here. So we figure out what the slope is. For this one, the slope is just going to be 2. We're writing an equation of a line parallel, so that means our slope is going to stay at 2. All right. Now, when we have the slope-intercept form, so the second part is the slope-intercept form. We have y equals mx plus b. Now, if you think about this, what's the difference between this orange line right here, I'm going to call this line 1, and this blue line, I'm going to call this line 2. What's the difference between those two lines? They have the same slope, right? So when we're writing the equation, the only part that I talked about with the y equals mx plus b was this m and this b, right? Those were two kind of variables that are going to change when we're writing the equation. So the only thing that's going to change for this is the b, all right? We know what m is. We found that out in step 1. So what we have to do is we have to find the b. Now to do this, we know what m is, and then we also have -4, -1. Well, we write coordinates as x, y, right? Well, I see an x down here and I see a y down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug that information in, okay, and solve for b. So that's step 2. We're going to solve for b. All right, solve for b. So when we do that, we plug in -1 equals 2 times -4 plus b. Now back to algebra, I have to solve this equation. -1 equals -8 plus b. Add negative, so we're going to add this 8, add this 8, okay? So we get 7 equals b, all right? So now that we've done that, we just have to move on to the third and final step. Let's switch colors here. The third and final step, and we got to write our new equation. We know that our slope is 2. We know that our b is 7. So we're going to say y equals 2x plus 7. All right? So that is going to be the equation of our line. So moving on to number 2. It says this one says perpendicular. So this is probably the most tricky here. So for this one, same thing. We have to find our slope, but this time we're writing the equation of line perpendicular. So we're going to have to find the opposite reciprocal slope. So our slope that we're given is -2. So I can put that as a fraction. I'm going to have to change that and find the opposite reciprocal. So that is going to become 1/2. All right? 1/2. So the slope we're using for this is going to be 1/2. Now, second step again, we're going to solve for b. So we're going to plug in these x and y coordinates into our slope-intercept form. So that's going to be 3 equals m, which is 1/2, times 4. All right, 1/2 times 4 plus b. All right, so when we do that, we are just going to do 1/2 times 4. All right, which 1/2 times 4 is just going to be 2. So I'm just going to come up here. 3 equals 2 plus b. What does b equal? Subtract the 2. b equals 1. So we found that. So our third and final step, again, let's change colors here. Let's go to an orange. So our third and final step is going to be writing our equation b equals 1, m equals 1/2. So y equals 1/2 x plus 1. Okay, so that's it. That's all you have to do. So guys, that's all we have here. Please, if you have any questions, I think this section is challenging, please ask. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and we'll catch y'all.